All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for, I think we're up to week 7 or 8 of our weekly episode series. Cannot believe how fast this has gone by. And surprisingly enough, we still have topics to cover here. So, Pete, what's going on, man?
What's going on, brother? We're just scratching the surface. And I did want to say, in honor of football being back today, I got my Giant swag on. I got my helmet out. I'm ready to go. They play Sunday, but always good when football's back.
Go Jets.
I'm sorry.
So, Pete, basically a week ago, we all kind of got a little bit, quite frankly, I think we all got a little surprised by this rain event / Hurricane Ida, which quite honestly, from the feedback I've gotten from talking to clients who owned homes during Sandy and Irene, this might have been even a worse storm. And I don't know that anyone really saw it coming. I know you personally had some issues with flooding in your basement. So talk to me about it. And I know it kind of put you through a thought process on like whether it was worth, owning a home or not.
Yeah, for sure, man. And yeah, I think, something like this, as far as flooding is concerned, hasn't been as bad since like Hurricane Floyd. And I don't think it was quite as bad as Hurricane Floyd, which was in like the late 90s. But yeah, man. So, we're home. We started getting a ton of water coming in the basement, not in a flood zone. We would get a little bit of water when it rained real heavy, but we were surprised at the amount of water that was coming in, as so many people that I spoke to also were. So yeah, so I'm here and I'm just sucking up the water in the shop vac, thinking like, is this ever going to end? I'm going to be going at this all night. And I had that thought creep into my head of, is homeownership worth it? That quickly went away. I think there are pros and cons to owning a home, but to me, the pros severely outweigh any negatives that you get with owning a home.
Yeah. And so how did you guys end up doing? You got the basement cleaned up and, you're recording from over there. So life back to normal now a little bit.
I was going to say, yeah, we had water coming in back here. So all this was moved out. Everything was pushed back and I just finally got it set up. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have it as bad as so many people out there. But even when you're going through that, it's devastating and it is scary, right? Because you reach a certain point. If I grew up getting water in the basement where I grew up, so I'm somewhat conditioned to this. But there is a point where you reach where you throw your hands up and you just start getting as much out of the area as you can. And that hits a threshold. So it was teetering on that, where it was just like, just save what we can.
And so I'm curious, you said at the end of the day, home ownership still very much worth it. So you had that brief moment, where that idea creeps into your head, like, what the heck am I doing? Schlepping water out of my basement. But what are some of the things that really remind you that, home ownership is worth it?
Yeah, man. So, for me, yes, it stinks, right? There are things that you have to do. You have to replace toilets. You have to change light bulbs. You have to do, maintenance on your home. But that's part for me, I take pride in that stuff. And not everybody's like that. But when you really step back and you really think about it, right? You think about for example, what's another investment that you build over time that you can actually access, right? So for what I'm trying to say is, look, say this entire basement just got destroyed and homeowners insurance didn't cover it for whatever reason, right? We know how insurance companies can be.
Mm-hmm.
I've got equity in my home that I can pull out and take care of the renovations that need to be taken care of. Now, that's not why we build equity in our homes, but it is a safety net, right? The ideal for me to build equity in a home is to go out and invest it in other places. But those are just options that you get through home ownership, throughout your time of owning a home.
Yeah. And I know it's tough because this storm was pretty brutal. I was lucky enough at my house. I got more water than I've ever gotten before. And yet, I really was able to control it with some towels and, a few buckets, just mopping up down there. So I didn't have it that bad, but I did have good friends and clients who, as the storm was hitting, I was texting with them, because we knew that, they've gotten water in the past. They are in a flood zone. And, it was sad because they felt like they were fighting a battle. And then distinctly when they started having much like the window behind you there, they've got very similar windows down in their basement. And they said water literally got so high outside the house that it started pouring in through those windows. And that was kind of their like, all right, enough is enough. There's no way we're holding this back moment. I went over there the next day after they got 4 to 5 feet worth of water in their basement, and just driving through that neighborhood, like it looked like, I hate to say it, but like a third world country, like a war zone. You had cars lifted up and shifted around. And yet it was interesting, like talking to my friends, like, it's probably the lowest moment of their time owning that home, and probably one of their low moments in life. And yet, like, there's still that upside of just like, hey, we're going to be able to rebuild this. And it was cool to see like a group of friends pull together and, rally around them over the weekend. We spent, a few hours there just schlepping stuff out of the basement, out onto the street for pickup. And so I think it's in those moments, right? It's like anytime that, something really terrible happens, if you can look at the upside and, that you've got friends, family, loved ones around you that are going to rally around you. I think it's where, it's a crummy memory, but you hope that one day you can look back and say, wow, that was something else, right? And we live to tell the story. So that's what's important.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hearing stories like that, and that's not the only one that I've heard, but that's terrible. And it really also does put into perspective what I went through here, right? It's, it stinks. It's work. It's up late. But I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't have 4 or 5 feet of water. And, when you talk about that water coming in, that's that threshold, right? Where you just go from like, we can handle this to like, all bets are off. And that's tough. And, just something else to point out too. I mean, that's why you always gotta, I always advise my clients, I know you do too, you gotta have that safety net just in case, because you never know what's going to happen. But
well, so a couple things that came out of this too that made me think were, I almost immediately, I don't own a shop vac, but I ordered one off of Home Depot. It just got delivered today. Not even for my own personal use, but I was thinking like, if I ended up in that situation again, the next day I spent, reaching out to clients and just saying, is there anything I can do to help? And I started realizing like having a shop vac on hand would be super helpful. Not everyone owns one. Having some sort of pump. Somebody might not have a sump pump. And if you could provide, a pump to lend them that could at least get water pumping out of wherever, whether it's their backyard, out of their basement. And I also, really big one was, in conversations, especially with my friends with the basement situation, it's a great opportunity. And it made me think myself that we get homeowners insurance when we're buying a house, right? And then when was the last time you ever thought about your homeowners insurance policy?
Not fair, but I just had to redo my insurance just like 2 weeks ago. So like last week I finished it up.
So I would say the average person, right? I've been in my house for 3 years. I have not thought about my homeowners insurance besides when I refied, just having to make sure that the proper, stuff was on the declarations page. But I think it's a great opportunity to reflect back and just think about reaching out to your insurance agent, going over your policy and understanding like, what are your deductibles? What is actually covered under your insurance policy? If you are in a flood zone, what is the flood insurance going to cover? Just going over that policy so that you understand and you're better prepared. Heaven forbid you do need to actually make that call and make use of your homeowner's insurance. Be, informed on what you can and cannot claim under your policy and see if there's any adjustments that should be made. I know, we always, hear our clients saying, I want to get the cheapest price possible on my policy. And yet it's one of those instances where take a fine-tooth comb and make sure you're getting a policy that really suits your needs if you need to use that policy. So
for sure. And you're absolutely right, because it is one of the things that we don't think about. We just know that it's there. And then when we need it, we hope that we can use it.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things that insurance companies, from what I've heard and, different experiences, you don't just pick up the phone and call the claim center, right? And I put a video out about this too. Make sure you speak with your insurance agent before you do that, or someone who's in the insurance industry, or call one of us to put you in touch with somebody, because there's certain language, certain things you should and shouldn't say that could prevent you from getting the coverage that you need. So just keep that in mind. I'm sure a lot of people now, we're a week later, have probably already called, but if you haven't, definitely little piece of advice for you on that too.
Yeah, that's a great one. And also, I know from now hearing from my friends that you can hire a private adjuster who will work with you in coordination with kind of basically giving you protection against those conversations with your insurance company and make sure they're getting you the most possible money out of your claim. So a couple little tips. And I think, as we come up on the end of our call here, I think maybe it's worthwhile. We should probably have an insurance rep come on one of these times and do a deep dive on this topic. So
yeah, that'd be great. We can certainly do that. Yeah. But, again, just to kind of wrap it up too, I think, listen, things like this happen. I mean, 4 feet of water is something nobody should have to experience. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's all gravy for someone who owns a home and gets 4 feet of water. Right. But in a lot of circumstances, the cons outweigh the pros, right? In homeownership, in my opinion. I'm curious what other people think. I know people like Gary Vanderchuck is out there screaming from the rooftops, like rent until you, forever and don't take it on. It's an asset. I mean, I think that's more for them, right? They preach that homeownership is a bad move. There's more, I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to go down that road, but I just don't see how renting is any better. And throwing money out the window, man. I'd rather be paying it to myself. So
yeah,
that's my thoughts on it. So
yeah, I'm weighing in saying that homeownership is still worth it. And yeah, I think good conversation, but know what you're getting with the homeownership. There's, that pride of homeownership, but also you got to be prepared for it. So till next week, I'm Scott and
I'm Pete. And guys, seriously, if you need anything, insurance adjusters, insurance people, we've got tons of contacts. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help. And we have shop vacs too. So
till next time, guys.